All right, I would like to call to order the Wilmette Park District Committee of the whole meeting for Monday. I'm sorry, what is it? February 23rd, 2026 at 6:32 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Gold,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier,
Here.
Commissioner Adrian Oakley,
Here.
Commissioner Ladies. Here.
Thank you. Communications and correspondence. Anything anyone would like to add? Okay. 3.0 public comment and recognition of visitors. Okay, so there is none.
No, Walter. Do you want to speak?
No.
Oh, I thought you were waiting.
I'm just in the other business.
Okay. All right.
4.0 old business, statements, 5.0 new business, 5.1 January 2026 financial update, please.
Okay, so you have the financial statement for January. Surplus actual is at 2.786 million, budget is 2.474 million, the variance is 312,000. The staff is going to be asked to explain variances at the GL account level for a 10% or $7,500 difference. I'm expecting that email is going to go out to staff tomorrow, turn it around next Tuesday so that we can get some explanations on this variance for the next board meeting, or maybe the FinCal if we want to do it then.
I think the plan is for the FinCal,
Perfect.
but we'll touch base.
And just to clarify, the FinCal, we're planning on holding before the March.
Yes,
board
yeah.
meeting.
And if we have that calendar, we'll re-disseminate it.
Anything else?
It's property tax.
Yes. Let's talk about property tax.
Yes.
So as of today, we got two big payments in on Friday and today. We are now at 98.7% collected, which is better than 98% because we plan for 2% uncollected, although we do collect really close to 100%. So, yeah, that's great, right? I have, we've got a little bit of capital spending, about $127,000. After you're going to see on the capital expenditure report, all of the golf equipment, and then you're going to see a negative number that wipes that out, and then just the amount that we're going to be paying on the lease payment. So it's really like 7 line items, but it's really only one project. So I'm now counting it as one project. We have 66 projects approved for this year. Okay. The auditors the books are going to officially close on Thursday this week. So by then I should know what amount of 2025 capital spending is going to move into 2026. Last year we were just shy of $1 million. It's a smaller amount, maybe 400 something the last time I took a look at it. So I'll have that number solid by the next time we meet. And the auditors are going to be in March 2nd through March 6th, although I don't want them in one day, and then they can work from their offices afterwards. And we should have a pretty good idea by the end of this week where we are for 2025. So depending on the timing for that, I may know for the next meeting where we are for the end of 25 and variances explained. We're going to have everyone explain 2025 variances. That's just going to take a little while because we're still working on closing that. But that's it.
So thank you.
Quick question about going back to the property taxes we received Friday. Was that through the technology, Taylor Technologies portal, or like that as they want to distribute it, or is that through the kind of by hand way we got them previous? Like, is it all ready to go for the next?
Right. So I don't know. Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm thinking about 2026.
We have not received anything related to the 2025 levy collections for this year. Everything we have is related to the 2024.
Correct.
The bills are supposed to go out March 1st.
Yeah.
And we should start collecting for that.
But I guess I'm rephrasing my question in a better way. Is that they went through this whole process to automate the system. And
Well, to upgrade, you mean the
Upgrade,
county,
yes.
upgrade the system.
is that upgraded and ready to go? No.
It's not.
So we might expect some lumpiness.
Well, not for the first half,
Okay,
okay, because the first half is just take last year,
right,
multiply it by 50%, and that's what you gotta send in.
Okay.
So, I know that there's still issues where people have refunds. That's a
Okay.
big problem, but, you know, the rest it's kind of immaterial, you know, for the little piece that we have related to. I think that we have a property tax consortium, us, Glencoe, the schools, the village, and, we have a law firm on retainer that fights those PTAB valuations for us. Our portion of that is like 5%.
okay,
So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Lindsay, 5.2 comprehensive and strategic plan annual. And you're coming up to the front, so we don't have to turn around. Yeah. But are we blocking you if we stay here? No? Okay.
I'm gonna make sure you're like this and then. Shall, the only thing you might, oh gosh, have to do is just. Wiggle this just so it doesn't, so it doesn't go out.
But this is so awkward.
This is weird. Maybe I'll stand like this. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so 2025 Project Parks and Play Comp and Strategic Plan Update. The team has worked really hard to get all of our details in place and dot all our i's, cross all our t's on what we completed last year. So tonight, I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about it. And if you want to save your questions till the end, that's always helpful, I think, in case I go over something. But without further ado, there was one spelling error in your packet. There shouldn't really be anything else that has changed outside of that one thing, but everything else looks the same as what's going to be on screen. Okay. So first we'll give a brief introduction just to kind of refresh, and especially for you to give you a little bit of background. We'll go over the strategic plan first, the comprehensive plan, and then look into 2026 and beyond. So the plan itself, the plans themselves, I guess, were both adopted in July of 2024 by the board. So since then, we've really been working as a team, both internally, strategically, and externally, comprehensively, on a lot of different initiatives. It's a great tool for us as a community and as a park district to have just our plan outlined so that we are holding ourselves accountable and we're being accountable to the community for the things that they talked about in their survey, the different meetings that we had, and just what we said we wanted to do. It's not something that sat on a shelf and gotten dust on it. It's been actively being worked on, and I'm excited to continue the progress. So as a refresher, we have guiding principles, and then we have strategic priorities and goal statements. These are the items that when we were creating the plans, there were a lot of different areas that we felt like, the board felt like, the advisory panel and the community really all felt like we could work on. And I think we started out with 12 of them. We narrowed them down to 9, and then we ended up with kind of some combination ones into these 5. So these strategic priorities are across both plans. They really, each of these house our objectives, which then house our initiatives for what we're going to complete. So these will not change throughout either of the plans. But once the plans are completed, we may look at these and see where we're at as a community and if we want to change any of them. So the way that they're set up is the strategic priorities on top. And then we get into the objective, which is what we want to accomplish. And then the initiatives are how we accomplish them. So we have a variety of objectives throughout the plan and then even more initiatives associated with them. These were created by way of all of those groups that I mentioned earlier. And then Barry Dunn, where our consultants actually took all of the information that we had put together, looked at items such as the community survey, the notes that they took, and said, you have a lot of these things, but you're missing this one. So they were kind of like the end all be all and looked at all of our initiatives to make sure that we really included everything in the plan that was heard throughout the process. And then the tactics are our action plans. Those are the things we do internally, the steps that we write down in our goals or wherever it may be that we take to accomplish the initiatives, which accomplish the objectives that support the strategic priorities. So progress. This is the same progress key that we used as last time. It's just in increments of 25% to make sure that it's just an easier way to kind of view and see where we're at. There are going to be things that are continuing or ongoing. So things that we will never, ever fully accomplish, or things that we're going to look at every single year. So we're always going to be looking at target area 2 to see if there's any specific property that we might be able to purchase for a mini park or something like that. But yearly, we might be looking at all of our native plants and increasing our native plants. So we can actually identify what we do in a year, and we will document per year on those different things so we can see how we've progressed over and over. Delayed, things happen. Things happened at the CRC this year, which kind of put a little halt on some of our initiatives this year, but things happen. And if there is something that's delayed, it's always our goal to explain why so that we can continue to hold ourselves accountable and move forward with them when we're able. So we'll look at the strategic plan first. So the strategic plan objectives, there's 25 of them. These are internally facing to the district. It's organizationally how we want to strengthen our staff, our policies and procedures, do trainings, and develop our staff, maintain our fiscal health internal to us. So we have 25 of those. We have 71 total initiatives, which are what we are going to do or how we are going to support the objectives. So it makes a lot of sense that organizational strength has the most, because strategic planning is really looking internal at us as an organization. And then we want to look at which ones are currently active. So this isn't just active for 2025. This is active since the plan began. So all of the ongoing ones, even if it's 100% complete, these are the ones that are currently out there in the universe for us to be acting on. So 38 active initiatives, which is a lot and really exciting. The vibrant open spaces, this one will always be 9 because they are all ongoing ones. So it will be 9 until the end of the plan. So from here, this splits up where we are at within each of the strategic priorities and the percent complete we are at with the different initiatives. So it's just kind of a different way to look at those 31, 38, the 38 active objective or initiatives and kind of see where we're at progress-wise. And then these are some highlights for this past year. So internally, you guys just heard about the GFOA award that we received from 2024. So that is an ongoing initiative that we will look to accomplish every single year. I think this was our 18th year consecutively, which is great. So we wanted to solidify that we do that. We're proud of it, and we always strive for that every year. So that's at 100%. Design and execute staff training modules to support continuous improvement. So we've created an agency calendar. Right now it's in spreadsheet format of all the different opportunities that we have available to staff, whether it's a volunteer work day or a CPR training or going to a certain workout class that is staff driven, just all the opportunities where we have a volunteer professional development training, so that everybody can kind of look at everything, space out their calendars, and make sure that we're not overlapping each other too heavily in one month or another, limiting what people might be able to attend due to their schedules. Identifying capacity for specific programs is a really exciting one. This has had a ton of work in the past year. We have internal dashboards that Doug Bundy had created that talk with RecTrack and show us like live refresh views of all the different things happening, all the programs, the sections, how many people are in them, how many people are on the wait list, and they continually talk to each other. And he's actually included capacity metrics to understand what types of classes are at capacity. And that way the rec team can dive further into it to understand wait lists, why people might be on a wait list, what the wait list, what the solutions are for those wait lists. So that was really great. You may or may not know that we restructured after school, before and after school, which has been really awesome. And Caitlin provided me with a lot of great information in a table. And I thought one of the greatest pieces of information was to see that the net revenue just for Mackenzie School has increased 155% for the capacity for what we're doing, the revenue that we're bringing in just at that school from 2024 to 2025, which is amazing. Then if you just look at before school from 2023 to 2025 now, we increased it by 84%. So we're really striving to identify the capacity for those programs and ensure that we're able to make room for everyone. Tennis did a rebrand too. They now have green ball, yellow ball, red ball, or I don't know all the colors, even though my husband coaches tennis, I probably should. But I know that they worked really hard to increase their capacity by 20%. So there's always going to be different ways we can look at this data. For after school, the reason it's a net revenue is that the way the registration is taken has changed over the past couple of years. So it was difficult to talk about it in capacity. So it's revenue based, but this one is easier to talk about because it's specific numbers of people that could be on a court. So really excited. There's still a little bit work left to do there. So we're only at 75, and that's due to the fact that we still have wait lists and we still want to figure out why, what those barriers are, and ensure that we're looking at all of our opportunities and not missing anything. So a little bit room to go. Employee only fitness class. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Transformation Challenge. We had 21 employees that participated in our own, which was really great. It was awesome. I did it for a couple sessions, and there's return employees, there's new employees, and it's just, a way to get out of your office for 45 minutes and go work out, chat, and then get back to work. A nice little mental break. And then real estate professionals, we have retained one. I know that there have been discussions about different properties. Obviously, we bought Big Tree Lane, so those are continuing to happen, and it's not something that we've left off our radar. So into the comprehensive plan now. This plan has 29 objectives. So these are externally facing, things that are in our capital plan, are improving our assets and services. And again, the objectives are what we want to accomplish. We have 97 total, which span the cross of 10 years. So the strategic plan was the 5-year plan, and the comprehensive is the 10-year. So more initiatives, more years, more things to work on. We have 31 active in the comprehensive plan, which is a lot. We have the remarkable facilities and vibrant open spaces. It also makes sense that those are the ones with the most initiatives because those are our facilities, our parks, those things, and our assets are all fall into one of those two categories. So once again, just looking at where we're at in the different progress for all of these initiatives. We're doing pretty good. We've got a lot of 75s and 100%, and then a lot of ongoings, but no delays. And then some highlights from this past year. So evaluating the CRC mechanical systems. Sounds kind of boring, but definitely something that we knew we needed to address and that we needed to look into. So we now have the rotation schedule and the replacement schedules for different RTUs or water heaters that we've seen get folded into the capital planning process so that we understand, okay, this one is needed in 3 years, but when are we going to need the one we replaced last year? How long is that lifespan? Let's just add it in there so we know, even if it is 20 years down the line. We also continue to work with ComEd. We're always looking for different rebates and finding ways that we can be energy efficient and cut usage where possible. And then the solar panel installation and activation, which was really, really exciting and a long time coming. For the address failing and non-compliant park and amenity conditions, the well at the golf course had an issue this year. We converted a ramp back to stairs at Centennial Tennis and continue to refine our water system. Josh and his team have really looked to build it out and use all the different components of it for either reminders or dates, uploading documents and things so that we're using that system to its best advantage for us and helping us remember when a playground needs to be inspected or something needs to be looked at again in the future. The school district relationship, this one is a broad one. The school districts and our relationship, we are there all the time, right? Year round, we are there on the weekends for basketball. We're there in the summers for camp. We're there after school, before school. So we wanted to, at the time when we created this, to make sure that we continue to strengthen that relationship. And Dave and his team have really gone a long way in doing that, between setting up meetings with principals, meetings, coffees with PTAs to understand how we all work together. And then even just pre-season meetings for what are your expectations? What are ours? Like, let's make sure we're working together. A couple of us just attended their strategic planning meeting last week, so that relationship continues to build. I don't know if that one will ever hit 100% because I don't think we're ever going to cap out at really strengthening. There's always going to be something we can look at to do, but we've done a lot of great work thus far. So 2026 and beyond, what does that look like? So at the end of last year, the leadership team put on a goal setting workshop for all of our like supervisory staff, where we looked at what is a SMART goal, how do we set them? Let's create an action plan worksheet for you to outline all the things that you're going to do. And one of the things that we made sure that we put in there was a connection to the comprehensive and strategic plans and the strategic priorities. So we took a look at all the initiatives that we were working on, as well as the ones for 2026, and said, let's make sure that we know what we're doing and we're planning them now ahead of time so that we have great steps to work on in the next year. So I think it was November that we did this with our team, and we all sat at tables, collaborated really great. We wrote down all of our great accomplishments that we had for 2025 on sticky notes, put them up on a glass wall at Lakeview, and really got to see what we've done together as a district to continue to motivate us and know that we do great things year round. And then to also talk about who else is doing those things as well. A lot of these initiatives don't just involve one person. They involve teams of people, they involve groups from different areas, different facilities and departments. And it was just a great way to kind of get together and understand what our goals were for 2026. From there, I recently hosted department meetings with all of our superintendents and general managers throughout the district. So this was really just a small group focus. We have a ton of new staff. Since this was done and since this whole process was created, we've had new faces come and go, and we really wanted to ensure that everybody was on the same page. So we talked about even something as simple as, how do you find the plan, to make sure that there was no chance that somebody wasn't understanding where to go. So all levels of supervisory staff were there. We asked questions, we reviewed what every single column was, how detailed to get in the notes section, who else might be working on something similar with them. So we added a column for additional staff. It was a really great way just to get everybody together, hit reset. Everybody's starting square one and adding stuff for 2026 now as we go. From there, 2027, 8 and 9, we've talked many times about how this is a fluid document. So when we created these plans, we had not purchased Big Tree Lane. So that's something that is totally new and different, that's not even included in here. And that's fine, because there's many initiatives within this plan that actually relate to what we're trying to do there, such as the master planning through all of our facilities. And we have to realize that next year might look one way right now, and it might look a different way in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months. So we want to make sure that we're always looking ahead, and we felt 3-year increments was a good amount of time to look ahead. It's really hard to plan 10 years in advance, as we tried to do at the beginning of this. Things have already shifted, but we'll figure out 27, 8, and 9 and really solidify those again in May before the capital planning process begins. So we can say, what are we looking for? What do we need to include? What do we need to take out? And we will do this every single year for those next 3 years. So we're always being really diligent about it. So for 2026, what do we have in store? For the strategic plan, we are adding in 12 additional initiatives that we're going to take and implement from the strategic plan. So that will be only then 23 initiatives that will remain, that don't have necessarily a year or a specific time assigned to them, that we will complete as a district through the end of 2029 as the end of that 5-year strategic plan. For the comprehensive plan, we will be implementing 18 additional initiatives, and then there will be 48 that remain throughout until we get to 2033, which is the completion of the 10-year comprehensive plan. So with that, that's really our 2025 kind of in a nutshell, and kind of where we're looking to go later this year. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So this is our first plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
I I think I remember doing it, was 2023, so we adopted it for 5-year plan,
The strategic one's fine.
right? Then do we need another one?
So that's, and I guess it's so funny, we were talking about this earlier today.
And I'm only saying this for budgeting purposes. And
Yeah.
long-term capital.
So a lot of agencies and organizations are straying away from the 10-year comprehensive plan. They're looking more at a 5-year master plan. So we can do it a couple different ways. We can either go out and do another 5-year strategic plan and make that go to the end with the comp plan, or we can look to do it in-house. Chris has actually done this in-house a couple different times. So I think we've been through it once. We understand a lot more of what we're looking to do. So we have options.
Okay.
But we probably would only do a strategic plan to lead us up to the end of the comp and then look forward to combining them together into one.
Will you remind me, and for the benefit of our news commissioner too, and staff, we opted to have the documents be separate, but many organizations have them wrapped in one. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because that will influence how we approach it too.
You mean like, why did we decide to keep them separate?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's embarrassing, I can't.
Oh,
recall
goodness, no.
why.
I mean,
think
I
we
don't-
went into it.
I don't think that there was,
Do that.
I think at the time, the plans that we had referenced and that we had looked at were both separate. I know that when Barry Dunn came, they had given us a couple different examples of different locations that they had. I feel like we had seen fewer that were master plans. And because we had never done this before, it would have been easier to really look at internal strategic versus external so that we could get a very clear understanding of the way to move forward. There was a point when we talked about combining them together. And I remember saying, we are so far down the road here of these two plans. This is just going to muck everything up and confuse everybody even more. I think we could have gone either way. That was just the RFP that we had put out there, and that's how we had structured it, was 2 separate ones. And so that's what all of the organizations came back with, or the consultants came back
Thank
with.
you for the refresh.
Yeah.
Chris, did you have something to say on that?
Yeah, typically your comp plan, your comprehensive plan is a longer term plan. And the strategic plan is how you accomplish the steps within that comp plan. So that's kind of like the working document of the comprehensive plan. And so now, because your comp plan is further out, there's a lot of ongoing things that are in there. There's a big picture agency wide that you build your strategic plan on. That's your priority on how you're accomplishing those steps, and typically in 3-year bites, because so much can change in that time frame. But the newer method that a lot of agencies are doing is a 5-year comprehensive strategic master plan. It's a lot of words, and but it's typically a 5-year plan. Some are still doing 10, but it's typically a 5. Some will do 3. It's just a matter of how you're doing that. If you're doing it every 3 years and you're going through that entire process, it just costs a lot of money to do that. So I think that those are things you keep in mind. And I just got done before I came here putting together a 5-year comp and strategic plan. But before that, we had 10-year plans or 3-year strategic plans to accomplish the task. So typically that's how I see it. When you say internal or strategic, that's really how we're accomplishing the goals that are in the comp plan. Overall.
I enjoyed seeing your highlights. Thank you for those. I bet there are other cool nuggets as well. One, I'd love to know more. If there are other 5 points we can help illuminate for other people, other residents, that's always wonderful. I am a little curious about, I knew after school recs reboot was beneficial and a lot of people, found it helpful to resume maybe standard naming and some of the programming, standard expectations. I'm just so curious, why did McKinsey grow that much? 5%.
A great question. I know that I have the table of all of the other ones. I just did the math for one in the moment of the highlight.
And we met parents where they were and.
Yeah, I mean, Dave might be able to speak to this a little bit more. I know I asked Caitlin to make sure I was saying the right things because she's the one that was kind of the mastermind and pushed all of it forward, but I don't want to speak out of turn on her behalf.
Nothing really changed structurally in terms of what our capacities are from a facility standpoint. We can only do so much at each school based on the space that we're given.
Yeah.
We just seemingly had relatively low maximums, either based on perceived staffing constraints or just operational constraints that we perceived. They didn't really turn out to be actual constraints. So we raised some maximums and figured out a way to safely staff, like especially before school programming, and then after school programming. So we kind of just took the lid off a little bit,
great.
and operated at at a higher level of what we could do within each school facility.
Yeah, I definitely seen and felt that, and kudos to your staff, because there used to be a panic around signing up for before and after care, as well as even the more general day camps that we had. And your staff has completely changed that anxiety. So well done. It's been a very positive switch.
And that was actually the biggest intent of the whole thing versus just the numbers. It was eliminating that sense of anxiety that
Yeah.
it was kind of a falsely creative narrative to begin with. Like, it didn't have to be that way. But I think once you start putting the structure in place, like, people realize that, oh yeah, we'll get there. It'll be okay.
I'll just add, as somebody who's done a lot of strategic planning in my career, it warms my heart hearing you say that you're, it's not in a collecting dust on a bookshelf and you're putting it to use and you're actually tracking it with real data. So congratulations. And it's really helpful for me to, as a new commissioner, to kind of hear about the two different approaches, two different plans, how they connect. To Julia's point, I would love to get a list perhaps of the initiatives that are getting launched in 2026, just to further inform us of the work that you guys are prioritizing in the year ahead.
Yeah, and it's not something that we want to keep secret by any means. We're looking to create almost like a tree where we can put up all of our initiatives or put them in and fill the tree with leaves to see how we've accomplished. So the one strategic priority might be yellow, another green, another red or orange, and be able to really just visually understand how far we've come. They're a little more expensive than I thought to create something as cool as that. It's in the budget for this year. So hopefully it'll even be more outward facing so that the whole community can see where we started. And then as we continue to fill the tree with all of the different leaves of accomplishment. So that'll be exciting too.
Yeah, I love it. It sounds like our logo. I can
So it
just
sounds-
visualize it.
So as a follow-up, it sounds like we would love the list of ones that we're focusing on. And I think just at our next conversation around Big Tree Lane, helping us understand how this, because Big Tree Lane was not a part of it, how those two are going to work together, specifically with the master plan idea, I think would be really helpful to get that conversation in front of us.
If I can help explain a little bit of that right now. So a couple of the initiatives in the comprehensive plan are related to conducting an indoor pool feasibility study. That was one of the things we heard. Another was creating a master plan for Howard Park. Another was looking at the CRC and figuring out how to either renovate it or how it's structured to make sure we're getting the most out of it. Same with Centennial. So
Insurance,
Yeah,
giant
that
flood
was
of
the-
insurance.
no, surprisingly, that was not in there. But interestingly enough, like we already as a community and as a board and as a district wanted to look at a couple of these places to understand what we could do, what we are or aren't doing, what does the space allow? So that's how Big Tree Lane really fits in, because as part of the master planning that Chris outlined the last time we were here, we want to take a look at each of those facilities and say, what can we do and how do we do it between the three of them now? So even though it's not listed in there, it's in there by way of the plans and the studies that we wanted to do, that we were already setting ourselves up to do. Maybe it would have been 5 years down the line, and that's why this plan can be flexible. We say, nope, we need that now, so we're gonna move it over here. So, so those things are already in there, which is great.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, brace yourselves. I'm gonna turn the lights back.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
So 5.3 Centennial Cooling Tower update and introduction of one of our newer staff members.
Yes, coincidentally, I'm gonna introduce Mike, but his nickname is the Centennial Cooling Tower.
Oh, that's good. Although,
I'm happy the calls, you know.
I was focusing on the cooling part. I would like to introduce Mike Caraselli. He is our new general manager of ice and aquatics, so.
welcome, Mike.
All right. So are you taking over this part of it?
The
or-
cooling tower,
Yeah.
I'm deferring Chris on this.
I'll kick it off.
Well, yes, I think you can kick it off, but I want to say like, this is an important, the conversation we're about to have is really good. We are listening to what the village is saying, and we are the village board, although we are exempt from appearing in front of the parents review committee. That our variance was ultimately approved with a lot of reluctant, like literally, I'm reluctantly approving this variance. So we have a unanimous variance approval. But there was a lot of reluctantly approving it because they're not, their standards don't include appearance, right? So hearing that, right, and taking it very seriously, we pulled the application from tomorrow night's village board meeting to talk about how we can improve the aesthetics of the cooling tower structure, and then go in front of village board and anticipate their questions about, again, even though it passed 7-0, we want to be able to say, we heard from you and our applicant. Fair?
Yeah.
All right, now you have it.
All right. So this is a few years in the making, and we have just a tough situation because the cooling tower is very large in size. It is not only, has a big footprint, but it's, and so that's part of the issue is that one, we know through the engineering reports from the professional engineers that have come out from the manufacturing entity of the unit that we would be proposing to put back in, that it cannot go in the current footprint, right? And we also know that current footprint has a structural issue with the roof that it sits on. And so we have, that's a whole separate issue that would happen down the road anyways, but not being able to put that unit where it goes because there's not enough space. So what Josh has done on top of that is not just taking, okay, we're putting one in for one. We've gone back to the engineer, like we've asked, is there multiple smaller units? Not ideal, right? That would fit in there, and or configuration of those that would give us the tonnage to make up the cooling needs that we need for the ice rink and studio. And there is not. So then what do? You look at other manufacturers for the similar output unit to see if there's one that's smaller. And through that, we have found that the one that we have is the smallest that will give us that. I think it's 1,200 tons of cooling. That's not that anyone needs to know that number. Stuck in my head. So the issue is then it needs to be moved, right? It's not uncommon for cooling towers to sit on the ground. Ideally, it's in the back of the building, right? Ideally, it's out of sight. Ideally, it's not a long run to get to the compressors and get into the mechanical space where that is serving so that we can cool our ice. And it just so happens that where that is for a reason. It is right next to that compressor room. And so naturally putting it on the ground, we also have a transformer, we have roll-up doors. That side of the building is kind of looks like the back of the building because the way it sits on the site, it is, it's just a kind of a unique, big, long, sprawling layout. And a couple of the comments that were brought were to talk about moving it to the west where the roof is taller and away from kind of the entrance or where you drive in, that would put it literally right next to the houses. And so all of this has been thought of. The reason we had to go to zoning was for the height variance in the fencing and the wall, right? And so the reason we need the wall is so that we can be good neighbors, and meet the village's, sound ordinance for the cooling tower. Now what we've done is we've gotten a little bit more appropriate renderings for you to see.
Can I call a quick time out there? I'm trying to wrap it because this is so odd, right?
Yeah.
But we need to move we need to move the cooling tower from the ceiling to the ground. We've all spent a lot of hours figuring out what the best place, most important place to put this for the park district. That is this current location on the south side of the building that is closest to the condensers. That's the cheapest, best place for it. However, in order to abide by the village's noise ordinance, we needed a variance to put a fence up. And they passed that variance given our hardship, but then here we are with, it looks like very bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just because people aren't used to seeing it. I mean, if it had been in place, it would be kind of different, but it is a large, large cooling tower with a large wall on it, so around it. And so we are exploring more avenues, right? We want to find ways to lessen the wow factor, and have talked about everything from our professional horticultural staff that's looking at, screening, right? Natural screening. And, sometimes that can even look out of place, right? This is a big parking lot, a large blacktop parking lot with a, large facility on it. Also, the location that this is going is mostly in the spot of the old loading dock. So if you've driven by and seen that kind of depressed loading dock area, slightly depressed, that's the intention of where it's going. And also there's also no parking there. And it's 210 feet away from the property line in that location, which is really helpful, especially for the neighbors. Really, the neighbors that are to the west are the houses that are closer. The neighbors on the other side of Glenview Road are, even significantly further away with trees and things like that, helping somewhat screen from looking at that part of the building. So it's, yeah.
I'm sure explored the north side of the building. And for the reasons of the transformer, the roll-up doors, et cetera, it has to be on the south side of the building.
Sorry.
Could it be north of the building and 210 feet from the property line?
No, that would put it like in the middle
The
back
field?
corner of the building where
And
there's dirt piled really
It needs
high.
to be near the transformer.
It needs to be, that's the location, right, that would affect how it works, right? Because then you're pushing cooling a very long distance, and that affects how that unit works. You may even need a bigger unit at that point, depending on how far it would go.
And we explored like 3 small units
Mhm.
or.
Chris, is there have you given any consideration, like, could we commission an artist and do some type of public art?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's something that we've talked about. And we've talked about a number of things like that green wall screening. I'll tell you right now that it's hard to get something to grow in the ground that's been, compacted as heavy as a parking lot would be. We've talked about, linear planters around it that could give us some break in the height, 3 to 5 feet, and then maybe public art. I think that public art is a really good opportunity here to, showcase the facility, right? And so we've talked with our professional marketing staff to, they're kind of starting to get their brain turning on what it could look like and everything as, and maybe even a local kind of art contest or something like that.
Since Spence, I assume, because I know there was some talk about whether it could bury it, and I think you need the airflow, I mean, not buried, but have a pit, because airflow. So I'm saying this fence is not solid then, it's.
It'll have it should have some louvers in it, right? It'll look kind of solid, but if you've seen like commercial buildings, you've seen some screening like this, that's either on the roof or on in the parking lot, and it'll have louvers, so that it's holding the air in, typically at the bottom. And then the wall is at the height of kind of the exit point, which is where most of the noise is.
And that's my question. As it is now, it looks like a box structure. Can it be roofed to look more like an actual building versus just a fenced?
Great question. The answer is no.
Okay.
Because that has to, it has to exhaust. That's where all that energy is going out of the cooling tower. And so that is not possible. Even a roof, if that were lower, we had a similar one, in my previous agency where we were looking to add solar, and we had 5 or 6 feet of clear airspace that would have had 5 or 6 feet of air flow all the way around it with a elevated solar like canopy. And the engineers said, absolutely not. That would deter the way the equipment works.
It's a tough sale.
It is, agreed.
And I think that, sorry, go ahead.
How'd you know? I was gonna say something. So I read the second paragraph where you considered smaller equipment or multiple units for the rooftop. Did you consider smaller equipment or multiple units for the ground?
Yes.
Because those might be not as 18 feet tall.
They're not as tall, but then they start to take up a lot more space, linear wise, which
Along the line.
gets us into the garage door that's there, currently now.
Mhm.
And actually the footprint of this is basically right from the edge of the building. It's a couple feet in, away from the edge on the entrance side, the driveway side, the east, for direction. And it goes almost all the way up to that first garage door.
Mhm.
And so, and also with multiple units, then you're also, the maintenance, the equipment breaks down, you lose, kind of the efficiency of having one larger, unit. That it's a massive load energy wise. So to make up for it it's just not feasible to add multiple.
So it sounds like from the zoning board, the idea of a mural came out of it. What were other ideas that came out of that meeting as feedback that are plausible for us to consider?
Well, depends. Yeah, it depends on, so Cecilia mentioned one about, going down, so digging down next to the existing foundation of a older building. It's never a great idea. Just because structurally that can get you in trouble. We've had some issues structurally with that. So
That's why I mean, what are plausible?
it's, yeah, the only thing is how we soften it into the building, right? And so short of making it look like an addition to the building, that is doable, but at the cost of probably at least $2 to $3 million would be my guess. Because you're talking masonry, roofing, foundation, and then we still have to have some sort of, it still has to have airflow to it. So it'll never really look, seamless, because this piece of equipment needs to be in open air to operate. So it's really tricky. And we looked around the back corner of the building. That would be really long runs. That one, it's, the equipment would have to be re-engineered, and there's no room for it, right? The landscaping behind the building is not ideal either, and that's where all the houses are. So, and then, putting it on the park side is impossible, just because of the distance.
It occurs to me, and this is in the realm of imaginative thinking, a cooling tower would not be so loud if it were next to a highway.
Well, we've got a couple of years for that one, but
Sure.
yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the master planning. And that's also part of the reason I think we do this in an this is an economical way, because it gives us the optionality to make changes. And I thought of the same thing.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm wondering, ice time being what it is a second one helpful. And then we have a new facility in a few years, obviously do this now, right?
Yeah.
We have a new facility in a few years that creates a huge footprint that could be something else one day. This ice footprint could become a different type of facility.
That's the master planning.
Yeah. So let's solve today though.
Yeah,
right?
and
So-
I do, like, we could have pushed it through, right? And it would have, I think it would have been bad. I think all of us agree this is the right course, right? We pull it back and it's 7-0, so it's gonna go on their consent agenda, but I fully expect someone to say, let's take a look at that, especially because we're all kind of like, eh. Now, the thing about our ZBA application is you can't really modify it in flight, because that's what it is. It goes in front of the village board. And what I'd like is, I think what we've done, and what I think you can say to them if it gets pulled, is we had a meeting on the 23rd. We talked about this for 20 minutes, and you were pressed by this board about the location, the size, and all the specs that got it there, that we all believe that it's the most affordable and reasonable place for it. And the unfortunate aspect of that is this height fence, which we all agree is not great in part of the application. But from there, that we are all committed to soften it in using our expertise in native plantings and arborists, or all these ideas that we're throwing out there. And then the leap of faith they have to have, which I think they will, is that we hear them and we're executing what they see, right? And outside of that, really don't have a whole other options. I mean, they could say this is ugly, come back to us, which would be, that is their right. But I think we all see this as something we want to improve. It's an unfortunate situation, but it is the best place for it.
We've been talking about it for years still.
Come out like like this tower, the component is like 18 feet, so we're talking about doing a 20-foot fence. I can't even picture the tower on the existing tower. So is that also 18 feet?
It's recessed into the building.
So yeah, but the roof is like 6 feet-ish. So, I mean, you see it, I mean, it's not screened at all now, and it's not sightly to begin with. It's how it's been, and it's what people have driven by every day and what they've seen.
Used to it.
You get used to it.
That's what I guess that's one way to talk about, is that eventually this too will become part of the.
100%.
Any other ideas on the table, but I think if you should, so we'll talk to you some offline. Sure. I think the important point is we can't really modify the application materially, or we have to go back to it.
It can be less.
It can be less, which is probably not possible, given
It can be higher.
that it's supposed to be like this because of the noise study we did and all those things. And that's really, they might pass it through consent. Who knows what's going to be on their agenda? But it would be wrong of us to just assume it'd be fine. It would be wrong of us not to listen. And I think we've done that. And I think if you're there, you're going to be there, I assume. I think if you're there and you do have these questions, you're prepared to answer them. And you could say, yeah, you were pressed by us for more than expected about all of these things, and you have those answers, and we're honestly looking at it because we hear them.
Rock climbing wall.
That'd be awesome. Probably not. So
It's a fly.
Is there, were these ideas that were presented, was a plausible idea offered that, like, having it be multi-purpose? I threw out, like, I'm worried that it's gonna become a hockey. Guys, let's have one conversation, please. I would be concerned that it's gonna be a hockey wall, So let's lean into that. I don't know. Can it be multi-purpose?
The wall is not, it's not like you'd put in a park, you could put, some people, I've put one in before, where you put like a kick or hip wall for lacrosse or soccer, and it's a block or concrete wall. This would be damaged. The material would be damaged. It's like a high level siding almost material.
And that would be another variance, to your point.
Yeah.
It would be having to go back to change the type of material.
Which I do think that taking advantage to, recognize art is a good thing. People are a lot less likely to mess with art. Not to mention, if we didn't put anything on it, for those that like to spray paint, that would be a feature wall for them and their art. So I think that, I've got there's coatings and things like that to be put on. that would help with that. Matter of fact, I think that the wall itself has a coating that makes it really easy and fast to clean, should they get it.
Is it climbable?
No.
Okay,
No, they're tight seam panels.
okay.
You can't get your fingers on it.
I suspect if we did engage the artist community, whether it be a mural or sculpture that sits right in front, you know, that their ideas would present us with some creative and potentially beautiful solutions to this problem. So I think I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners. You know, we are sensitive to how this looks and its placement, and the pursuit of, you know, potential ideas that would solve for the overall appearance and effect on neighbors who are living in it.
Yeah, even if they don't pull it, we want to do this. And that's really, I think, the message that we want to be put out there. And if they do pull it, want to talk about it, I think you're prepared to do it. I hope if you have any questions, like, okay, I think if you have any questions for Chris, please email. Like, because if this is, you don't know what they're going to do. Ideas, questions, like all the information in the interim is helpful. So.
And what is the timing?
Well, it's strictly because of the ComEd issue that we have there, which is there's an old ComEd line underneath there that needs to be moved, which is a good thing because the line has failed apparently quite a few times in the last 5 or 6, 8 years.
Yes.
And so we're working with ComEd. We've been contacting them since November of last year, hard and heavy. We have met with them on site. It's baby step for them. So ideally we would do this in summer. Summer months would be ideal because we're going to be down ice when we do that. And so, you know, we'd have to work with the contractor. I mean, the ideas are to, you know, set the new unit and get it ready to go. And then last second, disconnect the existing one, pull it off the roof, and then you're disconnecting piping. Otherwise we'd be down, you know, a couple months.
That's an important point to make if they do. I think it's also important to think like, and I mean, from there, you kind of can back out of this and say like, all right, lesson learned, right? We need to go in front of the ZBA. Even though it doesn't really, like, isn't really relate to them, we need to have some sort of, because we don't have to go in front of appearance review, doesn't mean that they won't bring up appearance.
Sure.
And we can be prepared for that in the future. And I think, you know, maybe it's one of those things we just weren't.
I mean, once it comes off the roof, but it was like recessed a bit. I mean, what are you going to do with the area of the roof for the roof that the tower had been? I mean, because it could potentially like be something that catches rain or something.
Yeah, but it's designed for that now. So, yeah. And so what it'll do is also lighten the structural load needed for that roof that's failing.
Yeah.
And so that's helpful. We're just worried about snow load at that point for the most part. So it helps us. We've already gone down that road for.
You're kind of concerned with structural issues too.
Yeah, it's got drains, you know, so water will get out. It's the snow load. That's an issue.
And you shouldn't hesitate to, if it does come up, just say, everybody needs to know. We have these things going on. We have aging infrastructure. This is how we're trying to accomplish it. And one of the bad results of that is an 18-foot fence we can improve, but we're going to do it.
Thank you.
Good discussion, thank you.
I move to adjourn a closed session for the discussion. Did I jump your gun?
No, please.
I move to adjourn the closed session for the discussion of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the district, including hearing testimony and complaint lodged against an employee of the district or against legal counsel to determine its validity in accordance with section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Close. Thank you, everybody. Sorry.